ไม่ช่วย
I request all members to take their seats, please. Good evening and welcome everyone. Well, a vast majority of all of us comes from manufacturing and services, and I'm sure most of us understand what shortage of skilled manpower is. In fact, acute shortage of skilled manpower is, which in fact is, I would say, deepening by the day. This demand supply gap, this is widening by the day. Well, while most of us are worrying about this aspect, there are a few individuals and organizations that have created opportunities around it in this space. So today we have two such gentlemen amongst us. One is Mr. Sridhar Chari and then Mr. Vijay Bhalla. So who run this consulting called BEC from Delhi. So before I request for their introduction, I would request Mr. K.K. Chadha to please come and present a bouquet to Mr. Bhalla. I would also request Dr. S.P. Singh to please come and present a bouquet to Mr. Chari. May I request Mr. Gautam to please come and read the introduction of both the speakers.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege and honor to introduce the speakers of the day. First, Mr. Vijay Bhalla. Mr. Vijay Bhalla is a BTEX from Technological Institute of Textile, Bhiwani, CTEX FTI from Text Institute, Manchester, PGD ADR from Nalsar University, Hyderabad. And professionally, he has got 35 years in operating business greenfield projects, especially in textiles. And around 20 years he has been reporting to the board of directors and CEO positions. And from last corporate assignments as a member of senior management team of US $400 million turnover company. Since last 8 years, he has been operating as a facilitator of initiative for business process re-engineering and re-engineering energy management in business and manufacturing units. His major strengths has been that he has got strong entrepreneurial approach in handling techno-economic commercial matters for optimum utilization and overall performance and the growth of the organization. He has got practical and innovative capabilities of turning around business performances, and he has been a speaker on various forums, has got good communication and presentation skills. Some of the important positions he has been holding: he has been the chairman cum Treasury Executive Committee, North India section of Textile Institutes, Manchester for 4 years, and honorary secretary for about 3 years. He has been a member of Executive Committee of North India Textile Mills Association. He has been a life member of Textile Association India as well, Vice Chairman, Governing Council, North India Textile Research Association. He is also a proud recipient of Ratan Shiromani Award for Meritorious Technical Knowledge and Qualitative Administration, and a life member of International Center for Alternative Dispute Resolution, and life registered member in the panel of arbitrators at ICADR. And the next speaker with us is Mr. Sridhar Chari. He is a Bachelor of Engineering Electrical from BITS Pilani, Diploma in Business Administration from AIIMS Ahmedabad, and he has got a vast experience from 1971 to 1988. He has worked with DCM Group and then Enfield India Limited Madras. He has worked with Nagarjuna Group Hyderabad. He has also worked as a consultant in Mumbai and Dubai. And he has been handling a lot of consultancy assignments as a member of MICA, that is Mudra Institute of Communications Ahmedabad, heading General Management and Placement Conference. Academically, he has been the director of ICFA International Operations and faculty in the ICFA University Hyderabad, and also in charge of marketing research companies set up by ICFA Foundation. He has been mentored to 2 startup companies, one in MR space and other in recruitment, and he has worked as a consultant in OD to corporates in Hyderabad. Ladies and gentlemen, I present before you both of our worthy speakers, Mr. Vijay Balla and Sridhar Chari.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to take this opportunity to very highly appreciate and pay my sense of gratitude to the August gathering of Ludhiana Management Association, who has given us this opportunity to present some humble views. Gautam had spoken some very high words. We accept them with humility. We are basically karma yogis. We are facilitators. I mean, 2003 when we started this consulting group, I would like to give you a bit of a background introduction that the difference we wanted to create at BEC was that we would like to be facilitators in implementation of the ideas that we carry rather than be the advisory as per the conventional consulting or the large major organizations globally are concerned. So that's where we started from. We have handled various types of responsibilities on strategy, on cost management, on turning around, on business process re-engineering, marketing systems, etc., etc. And then we specialize in energy side. We do the re-engineering on the energy, we do the upgradation, modernization of the energy systems, whereby our focus for all activities has been how to give better performance and be able to improve the return on investment or return on capital employed of any particular organization. Having done well for ourselves, not really worried about, we wanted to do something different, and we wanted to do something in the latter part of the age where we would really be enjoying something. BEC is a core group of 60 plus senior executives from the industry. The core group comprises of about 5 people, like me and Sridhar, and we try to do, and rethink as to how we can take some different steps. So in the last 2 years, we thought let's revisit whatever packages we are delivering, and one of the things which we realized, we have done very deep study on this subject of vocational education and skill training, on which today's the lecture will be, Sridhar will be making a presentation. We will be answering questions and answers for you on that particular subject after the presentation is over. And then, anybody who wants to have an interaction on a one-to-one basis, we can do that also. So, in brief words, having introduced BEC, may I now request Sridhar to come over and make this presentation. Thank you.
evening, and thank you for the opportunity to share our thoughts. Both Vijay and I feel very passionately about the topic that we would like to discuss today. I mentioned 35 minutes, we'll try and make it shorter. What we are here to present is a strong case for the private sector to be involved in vocational training and education. As Mr. Gautam mentioned, we don't have to justify the need for it, but what we would like to stress here, ladies and gentlemen, is that there is a case for the private sector to be more actively involved, and the government, ITIs and other bodies are just not up to the task, and the government recognizes it. So I'll quickly take you through our case. I need some help with this, sorry. Okay. The presentation goes like this. We first like to justify the case for manufacturing, because somewhere along the line there does seem to be an emphasis on service, and the Indian growth story is being taken for granted. But we think, Vijay and I think, that we need to bring manufacturing back into its primacy for sustained growth. There's another reason for it, because we don't think the service industry alone can address the population. There's a tremendous imperative that's being created on account of the population dynamics, which only the manufacturing sector can address. Along with that, there is a need for a paradigm shift in the way knowledge is presently available for either in the higher education space or elsewhere. And we would like to present to you the status of the Indian education sector and why we think that, again, there is a need for the private sector to step in. And the private sector we refer to includes the corporates. Then specifically on the VET space, vocational education and training, what are the sort of initiatives that the government have put in place? They are extremely attractive. They in fact have a PPP operating already in Delhi, and over 300 projects have been granted. So we would like to share some of the highlights with you so that you could see some merit in it. And if at the end of it all, there is a desire to go ahead with a foray into vocational education and training, what we think is the way forward. I put the case study right in the end. I don't think I'll take it. If at all time permits and there is an interest, we can quickly go over those slides later on. Otherwise, we'll end with going forward. I'm supported very much by the government itself, because just 2 days ago, the Mint newspaper reported that the IIP growth rate has reached crisis levels, 2.69% for last year. This is a crisis. It's definitely a crisis which needs to be addressed, and the answer cannot come anywhere else but from human resource augmentation through vocational education and training. Not only is that the sign of more trouble, talks about the Sensex, how the impact on the Sensex today is hit a bottom. As Mr. Pranab Mukherjee was talking on the TV in Rajya Sabha, Vijay and I, we were listening to it in the afternoon. We find that the rupee has hit a record low ever since independence. It's crossed 50 or something like that. So that's the third reason, essentially, that the rupee has depreciated, which is going to create further problem. Now, how are all these three in any way related to the topic is what I will try to bring on. And the case for manufacturing, therefore, having seen the situation as it exists today, with the 2 to 3% growth last year, the case for manufacturing, there's a clear message which the economists brought out in an edition perhaps 2-3 weeks ago. Are we losing our magic? Essentially, is India losing our growth magic? There is a cover article in The Economist. And I'd just like to quote what they said. Growth slowed to 6.1% in the last quarter. Trend growth is unlikely to be more than 7%. So that's the Economist prediction. The rule of law, because of the Vodafone case, they are raising an issue, but we may have different opinions on that. But the issue to be mentioned, to be noted here is a slower growing India will be more financially vulnerable, poorer, full of frustrated young people. And we will show as we go along how that mass of young people are going to be frustrated unless there is some sort of foray in EET. And we are going to be taken less seriously by the rest of the world. We've seen it. I mean, we give some political reasons. We say nothing has happened. The elections will bring change. But pure economics shows that we are being taken less seriously in the world. And why is this growth rate down to 7%? For two reasons. One is high inflation, and the other, as a consequence of high inflation, is the inadequate capital expenditure that has happened or not happened in the high inflation. We all know there's been supply side bottlenecks. There's far too much money through NREGA, the rural employment guarantee schemes, or many other subsidies that are floating around. There's far too much money chasing few goods, so there is a supply side bottleneck. Rising subsidies, as you all know, is a model of issue, and our government is not able to control revenue. In fact, one bank says we have a 2G problem of our own. The first G being government deficit, the second G being governance. So there's an absolute lack of reform. So we have this 2G situation staring in our face, and it's because of this high inflation and inadequate capital expenditure that the economist predicts that the growth rate would not be substantially higher than 7%. Quickly, through a chain of how this has happened, I know I don't want to be carrying codes to Newcastle, you're all as industrialists well aware, but certainly the high subsidies, the high expenditure, the high fuel cost has created fiscal deficit. Government is borrowing, therefore there's much less money available for the private sector. Banks are quite happy sitting and lending to the government, arbitraging on the interest rate, then run the risk of giving money to the manufacturing sector or the service sector and have credit appraisal problems and the CBI inquiries and what have you. So there's just not money available for private investment. It's crowded out because of the government fiscal deficit. And what is inflation doing? It's creating problems on the supply side, high interest rates, and worsening it is the rural poverty alleviation programs, which has reduced supply. I don't have to talk to this in the Punjab. You're facing it on a daily basis, and that's inflation. So somewhere we need to break this knot that is happening, and to see how do we get out of a high fiscal situation and in inflation. And the answer we submit is manufacturing. Can we afford to ignore manufacturing? If you were to compare India with China, it's an old game that we do, but I think it's very relevant. And then you see the developed world. In India today, manufacturing constitutes 26% of the GDP. In China, it is twice that, or nearly twice that, 46%. Developed world, we seem to be matching the developed world, but that's illusion. We can't reach the developed world standards without going through the manufacturing route. And so we may credit ourselves with having achieved a 55% service orientation in the economy, but that's very short-lived. It cannot rest on service alone. There has to be a strong manufacturing base that has to be built, and the government has recognized this, as we should show, as the sort of initiatives that they have done. So there's no use finding credit for getting into the developed world scenario. We must look at what's happening in China and appreciate that their high manufacturing component of GDP is what is sustaining them. Though they may be export oriented, but tomorrow if the Chinese internal economy picks up, then again they'll continue to grow. So they have got their economics right. We have not. Just see the trend in leadership. In 1970, US accounted for about 26% of the world's production in manufacturing. Today, in 2010, US is around 20%. In 1970, China and India were together at around 3 to 4%. Today, China is around reaching US and are supposed to exceed them in terms of contribution of manufacturing in the world. So China is around 20% of the manufacturing in the world comes from China. In India, we have gone from about 2% to about 4%.